Rufus 4.14 beta just landed, and frankly, it's the update we've been waiting for. If you're tired of fighting Windows 11's bloatware and endless setup screens, this version is a total game changer. We're looking at a brand new way to strip down the OS before it even touches your hard drive, plus a silent install mode that handles the entire deployment for you. Today, I'm going to walk you through the new 4.14 features, explain the setup step by step, and give you a high-stakes warning about the silent installation, because if you get that part wrong, your data is gone. Let's dive in. For those who doesn't know, Rufus is the gold standard for creating bootable media. It's free, open source, and arguably the most reliable tool for IT pros. To get started, head to rufus.ie. Since we're after the new features, skip the stable build and grab the 4.14 beta executable. It's portable, so no installation is necessary. You'll also need a fresh Windows 11 ISO from Microsoft and a USB drive with at least 8 GB of space. Just a heads up, Rufus is going to wipe that USB, so double check for any important files before you proceed. Once you've launched the app, it's time to set the foundation for your build. Start at the very top under the device category. You need to be absolutely certain that your intended USB drive is selected here, especially if you have multiple external disks plugged in. Next, move down to boot selection. Click that select button, navigate to the Windows 11 ISO you just downloaded, and hit open. Rufus will take a second to scan the file and automatically handle the initial heavy lifting by configuring the basic image options for you. With the ISO loaded, we need to look at the partition scheme. For almost any machine built in the last decade, you'll want to stick with GPT. This goes hand in hand with the target system setting, which should be set to UEFI non-CSM. These are the modern standards, and unless you are specifically trying to revive a very old system using a legacy BIOS, changing these to MBR will likely prevent the drive from booting correctly on a modern PC. Finally, let's look at the volume label. Rufus usually autofills this with a generic name, but I highly recommend renaming it to something more descriptive. I'm calling mine Win11 4.14 Beta, so I don't find it in a drawer 6 months from now and wonder what's on it. You can leave the file system and cluster size at their default settings. At this point, everything is staged and ready, so go ahead and click Start to bring up those new customization menus. The moment you hit Start, Rufus opens up the Windows User Experience dialog. This is effectively where you get to customize the soul of your installation and strip away the parts of Windows 11 that usually get in the way. First up is the hardware bypass. You'll see the option to remove the requirements for 4 GB of RAM, Secure Boot, and TPM2. My advice here is simple. Only check this box if you're installing on an older, unsupported machine. On modern hardware, it's better to leave it unchecked to ensure you don't run into issues with future Windows updates. Next, we have the account and privacy settings, which are absolute lifesavers. I always check the box to remove the requirement for an online Microsoft account. This completely bypasses the sign-in loop during setup and allows you to create a local user account directly within the Rufus interface. While you're at it, go ahead and check the options to skip privacy questions and sync your regional settings. This copies your current keyboard and location data over, saving you at least 5 minutes of clicking No to Microsoft's various data tracking prompts once the installation begins. The final essential tweak here is for BitLocker. I highly recommend checking the box to disable BitLocker automatic device encryption. By default, Windows 11 often encrypts your drive during setup without a clear warning. If you aren't prepared for that, you could end up locked out of your own data if you don't have the recovery key handy. By disabling it here, you stay in control. You can always choose to enable encryption manually later on your own terms once you're actually at the desktop. Now, let's get into the headline additions for version 4.14. First up is the quality of life option, and it is exactly what it sounds like. Think of this as a built-in debloat button for Windows 11. When you check this, Rufus configures the installer to automatically strip out Microsoft Teams, the new Outlook, and Copilot before you even finish the setup. It essentially treats these pre-installed apps as the nuisances they are, ensuring you land on a clean, lean desktop from minute one without having to run third-party scripts after the fact. The second major addition is the silent installation mode, but you need to listen very closely to this part. This turns your USB drive into a self-executing installation tool. Once you boot from this drive, it bypasses every single menu, every prompt, and every partition selection screen. It is designed for speed and automation, meaning the moment the computer boots from the stick, the Windows installation begins immediately and unconditionally. Here is the warning you cannot ignore. By default, the silent installer targets disk 0. The problem is that your computer's internal numbering doesn't always match your expectations. Disk 0 might be your secondary storage drive or a backup disk rather than your intended boot drive. To stay safe, I strongly recommend physically unplugging every other drive in your system before using this mode. Rufus will even show you a bright red warning dialog when you enable this. Take it seriously, because if it targets the wrong disk, your data loss will be irreversible. Once you've finalized your choices, click OK and let Rufus work its magic. Depending on the speed of your USB drive, the process usually takes between 10 and 20 minutes. Once the status bar shows Ready, your custom Windows 11 media is officially prepared. You can now take that drive to your target PC, enter the boot menu, usually by tapping F11 or F12 during startup, and select your USB to begin. If you went with the silent install, you can literally walk away. The system will reboot a few times and land you straight at the desktop. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Are you excited about this new debloater button, or do you prefer the control of a manual setup? If you found this guide helpful, a like and a subscribe really helps the channel keep these daily Windows tutorials coming. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.